There are moments in life when silence becomes heavier than noise. When the words you never said echo louder than the ones you did. Unspoken regret has a strange way of following you, sitting beside you at dinner, lying awake with you at night, whispering what-ifs into your quietest hours. We tell ourselves we will say it tomorrow. We promise we will fix it later. But sometimes, later never comes. This story will show you why true healing begins not when you hold on, but when you finally learn the courage of release. Why letting go is not weakness, but strength. And why your journey toward peace starts the moment you stop carrying what was never meant to stay. In a small, windswept town near the sea, there lived a man named Ayaan. In the quiet coastal town where the wind always carried the scent of salt and memory, Ayaan lived above a small watch repair shop with faded blue shutters. Every morning before sunrise, he would unlock the wooden door, sweep the floor, and wind the clocks that lined the walls. Tick by tick, the room would come alive. People said he had patience in his hands. That he could fix what others had given up on. Broken straps. Rusted gears. Stop time. But there was one thing he never tried to repair. Years ago, after a bitter argument filled with pride and sharp words, Ayaan's younger brother had walked out of his life. It was supposed to be temporary. Just a few days of silence. Just enough time for tempers to cool. But silence has a way of stretching. At first, Ayaan believed time would heal it. He believed in discipline, in routine, in work, in quiet endurance. Time fixes everything, he would say when neighbors asked about his brother. And perhaps he believed it. Or perhaps he simply needed something to believe in. At night, when the town grew still and even the sea seemed to whisper more softly, the ticking clocks felt louder. In those hours, regret would sit beside him like an uninvited guest. Words he never said replayed in his mind. Apologies left unspoken. Forgiveness never offered. Yet by morning, he would bury it again beneath responsibility and pride. You see, it is easier to repair a watch than to repair a wound. Ayaan wanted peace. He wanted strength. He wanted to believe he was a man of patience and control. But deep inside, beneath his discipline and quiet motivation, he carried something heavier than metal gears. He carried unspoken regret. And regret, when left unattended, does not disappear. It waits. In the years that followed the argument, Ayaan devoted himself to mastery. If he could not fix the past, he would perfect the present. His shop slowly became the heart of the town. Fishermen trusted him with heirloom pocket watches passed down through generations. Teachers brought him delicate wristwatches with cracked glass. Even travelers passing through would pause at the sight of the small sign that read, "Time restored here." And Ayaan restored it beautifully. He worked with discipline that bordered on devotion. His hands moved with steady confidence. His eyes noticed details others missed, a bent spring, a worn cog, a whisper of rust. People admired his patience. They called him reliable. Strong. Focused. There was motivation in his routine. A quiet pride in being needed. With every watch he repaired, he felt a small victory. A controlled success. Something broken returning to life under his care. The ticking sound was proof that effort mattered, that precision mattered, that nothing was beyond transformation. Or so he told himself. In the evenings, customers would thank him with warm smiles. Some would say, "You have a gift, Ayaan. You bring things back." He would nod politely, wiping his hands on a cloth, pretending those words did not sting. Because deep down, he knew the truth. He could bring back seconds and minutes. But not conversations. Not moments. Not chances. Still, he convinced himself that this was enough. Success became his shield. Discipline became his armor. As long as he kept moving, kept fixing, kept improving, there would be no space for regret to breathe. And for a while, it worked. The shop thrived. His name carried quiet respect. He stood taller. He felt, in some distant way, accomplished. But beneath the rhythm of ticking clocks, beneath the appearance of peace, something fragile remained untouched. And when a flaw goes ignored for too long, it does not disappear. It waits for the right moment to break. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. The sky was pale, the sea unusually still. Ayaan was bent over a silver wristwatch when the town's postman stepped inside, holding a single envelope. "There's something for you," he said gently. Ayaan wiped his hands and took it. The handwriting on the front made his chest tighten. It was his brother's. For a moment, everything inside him softened. Time, which he had treated like an obedient tool, suddenly felt fragile. He imagined what the letter might say. Perhaps an apology. Perhaps a simple greeting. Perhaps the beginning of healing. His fingers trembled slightly as he opened it. But inside was not the message he expected. It was brief. Polite. Distant. His brother had moved overseas for work. He had built a new life. He hoped Ayaan was well. He wished him peace. There was no anger in the words. But there was something worse. Finality. Ayaan stood still as the ticking clocks filled the silence. He read the letter again and again, searching for hidden meaning. A line that suggested return. A sentence that invited reconciliation. There was none. Later that evening, he wrote a reply. He kept it simple. "We should talk," he wrote. "Come back for a few days. Let's fix this." He walked to the post office before he could change his mind. Weeks passed. Then one morning, the same envelope returned. Stamped. Unopened. Address not available. That was the moment the illusion shattered. Time had not been waiting for him. It had been moving. The opportunity he thought would always exist had quietly slipped away. And now, the weight of his silence pressed against his chest with unbearable force. For the first time, Ayaan could not focus on the gears in his hands. His vision blurred. The ticking of the clocks, once comforting, now felt like accusation. "You waited too long. You assumed there would be tomorrow." And in that small shop by the sea, surrounded by restored timepieces, Ayaan felt something inside him break, something no tool could mend. Regret had finally found its voice. The next morning, Ayaan opened the shop as if nothing had changed. Routine is a powerful disguise. He swept the floor. He wound the clocks. He arranged his tools in perfect alignment. His movements were precise, almost mechanical, as if discipline alone could silence the storm inside him. "It's fine," he told himself. "People move on. Lives change. This is normal." He repeated those words like quiet motivation, as if saying them often enough would make them true. When customers asked if he was well, he nodded with the same calm expression he had practiced for years. He worked longer hours now. Earlier mornings. Later nights. The ticking clocks never stopped, and neither did he. But inside, something restless had awakened. At night, he replayed the last argument with his brother, every word, every tone, every stubborn silence. He began rewriting the memory in his mind. In some versions, he spoke gently. In others, he apologized first. Sometimes, he imagined his brother turning back at the door. But imagination cannot alter history. Still, Ayaan clung to pride like an anchor. He told himself he had done nothing wrong. That his brother had overreacted. That reconciliation requires two people, and he had tried. Yet beneath those justifications, guilt grew quietly. He stopped walking by the harbor where he and his brother once sat as boys. He avoided certain streets, certain memories. The town had not changed, but everything felt heavier. You see, denial is not loud. It is subtle. It looks like strength, but it is fear wearing armor. Ayaan believed that if he stayed disciplined, if he remained composed, the ache would fade. But regret is patient. It waits beneath routine. It hides beneath success. And the more you refuse to face it, the deeper it roots itself within you. In trying to protect his pride, Ayaan had imprisoned his peace. And peace cannot survive where truth is unwelcome. One late afternoon, just as the sun began to bleed gold across the sea, a traveler entered Ayaan's shop. He was old, with hair white as driftwood and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of countless sunsets. In his hands, he carried a pocket watch, its casing dented and tarnished, gears exposed like tiny skeletons. "I was told you can fix anything," the man said softly, placing the watch on the counter. Ayaan examined it, his hands moving with practiced precision. "Yes," he replied. "I can." The old man smiled faintly. "Sometimes it's not the watch that needs repair. Sometimes it's the one who holds it." Ayaan paused. Words like that had no place in routine, in discipline. They belonged to stories, to moments he had long ignored. "I don't understand," he said, turning the watch over. "Time is patient," the traveler whispered. "But it doesn't wait. You can mend the gears, polish the face, hear it tick again, but the moments you let pass will never return." Ayaan felt a flicker inside him, a pulse of something long buried. "Are you saying, it's too late?" "Not yet," the old man said. "But healing begins when you stop trying to control it. You cannot fix what you refuse to face. You can only release it." The words settled like sand in Ayaan's chest. He realized that every meticulous hour he spent repairing others' timepieces had been a shield, a quiet avoidance of his own unfinished story. The traveler tapped the watch gently. "Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it is simply speaking a word you've left unsaid, sending a letter you've left unwritten, or letting go of what weighs on your heart." Ayaan nodded slowly, though the journey ahead seemed unclear. For the first time in years, he sensed that the door to healing was not locked. It was merely waiting for him to turn the handle. And perhaps, he thought, it was time to finally open it. The next morning, Ayaan woke before dawn. The first light of winter stretched across the harbor, pale and trembling, and for the first time in years, he felt its warmth without resistance. He sat at his small wooden desk and pulled out a sheet of paper. His pen hovered over it, hesitant. Every word he had left unsaid to his brother pressed against the tip, heavy as the tide against the shore. He began to write. "I am sorry. I miss you. I wish I had said this sooner." He wrote not to send it, not yet, but to release it. Each line was a small letting go, a gentle act of courage. The pen traced the truth he had hidden behind pride and discipline for so long. Tears blurred the ink. His hands shook. But he continued. Once the letter was complete, he wrapped it loosely and tucked it into his coat. He walked through the sleeping streets to the edge of the sea, the wind carrying the scent of salt and memory. Waves lapped at the rocks, steady, patient. He read the letter aloud. Words that had been trapped inside him for years finally found air. The sound mingled with the soft roar of the ocean, and for the first time, regret felt lighter. Not gone, but softened. Not punishment, but a lesson. He let the paper fall into the water. It tumbled and spun before floating away, carried by the current. Ayaan watched until it disappeared from sight, and in that disappearance, he felt something shift within himself. The weight of unspoken words lifted, leaving space where courage and peace could grow. The tension in his chest loosened. A small, quiet strength began to emerge, not built on achievement, but on honesty. And in that early morning silence, Ayaan realized that healing is never sudden. It is gentle. It begins with small steps, with acts of release, with the courage to face the truth you've been avoiding. For the first time in a long while, he smiled. Not because the past was fixed, but because he had begun to fix himself. And sometimes, that is enough. Weeks turned into months, and the small coastal town continued its rhythm. But something inside Ayaan had changed. The quiet storm of regret that had once dominated his days had softened into a steady, calm awareness. He no longer avoided memories of his brother. Instead, he carried them with gentle acceptance, like smooth stones in his pocket, reminders of lessons, not burdens. He reopened the shutters each morning with renewed purpose, not just to wind clocks but to share time itself. A young apprentice, curious and hesitant, had begun helping him in the shop. Ayaan showed him the delicate art of repairing timepieces, teaching patience, precision, and care. But more than that, he shared something previously unspoken, the importance of letting go, of facing truth, and of understanding that some things cannot be fixed externally, they must be healed within. People noticed a change in him. His calm had depth now, a softness beneath the discipline. There was no longer tension in his shoulders, no silent obsession behind his careful movements. The ticking clock still filled the shop, but they no longer carried accusation, they carried rhythm, life, and possibility. One evening, as the sun sank low over the harbor, painting the waves in molten gold, Ayaan paused and watched a family of seagulls glide above the water. He realized that the life he had been trying to control, his emotions, his regrets, his need to fix everything, had started to flow naturally, like the tide. He understood that strength was not in holding on, nor in controlling every outcome. Strength was in release. Courage was not always a bold gesture, sometimes, it was a quiet morning spent writing a letter, a step taken toward healing, a lesson passed to another. And in that stillness, Ayaan felt a peace he had long thought impossible. The past no longer dictated his present. The future, once heavy with fear, felt open and inviting. He had been broken, yes, but now, he was reborn. Not because the world had changed, but because he had. Time had finally taught him its deepest secret, that transformation begins when you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Ayaan's story is not unique. It is a reflection of something we all carry, the weight of unspoken words, the burden of regret, and the quiet fear of letting go. From his journey, we can draw lessons that are simple, yet profound. 1. Time alone does not heal. Waiting for the right moment often means delaying courage. True healing begins when you face the truth. 2. Discipline is powerful, but it cannot replace honesty. You can perfect your work, your routines, your outward life, but inner peace comes from acknowledging what is unresolved. 3. Regret is patient. It lingers quietly, shaping your thoughts and choices. Recognizing it is the first step toward release. 4. Courage can be quiet. Sometimes, it is found in writing the words you never spoke or taking the first small step toward healing. 5. Letting go is strength, not weakness. Release does not erase the past, it frees you to move forward. 6. Healing transforms your purpose. Once you release what weighs you down, your energy can flow into growth, compassion, and connection with others. 7. Inner peace is cultivated, not gifted. It requires patience, reflection, and the willingness to confront your own heart. 8. Transformation begins within. The world does not change instantly, but when you do, your life begins to align with clarity and hope. Ayaan's letter floated into the sea, but the lessons it carried remained. And so too, can your own acts of courage ripple outward, healing old wounds, and inspiring growth in ways you may never fully see. Remember, the weight of unspoken regret is heavy, but it can be released. The journey is quiet, the steps small, but the freedom you gain is profound. Take a moment today. Speak, write, forgive, release. Begin your journey toward peace. And when you do, you will discover the courage, the strength, and the transformation that has always been waiting within you. The tides will keep moving, the clocks will keep ticking, and you can finally begin to breathe.